Is NFL Sunday. Welcome into sportsbookreview.com. We got the normal cast of characters. It'll be me, it'll be Jay, it'll be Ian. We're going to break it all down. We have 1 hour to get through, and as we always say, last couple minutes of the show, please stay tuned. We're going to give out some best bet wagers, and the first guy I want to bring in today is Ian Cameron. We're able to pry this guy away. The Grey Cup finale is on, and Ian's boys are in it. Ian, come on, baby.
Absolutely, Donnie. Oski wee wee. It's Hamilton Tiger Cats Day. That's our big chant. They're playing Winnipeg. The game's on ESPN2 in the States, so you guys can watch it if you'd like to. And definitely excited for that. Of course, I'll be going to a Grey Cup party in about a few hours. We'll have the NFL rocking though too, and of course we'll be breaking it down right here on this show. But this is a day that football lovers like me, we dream of days like this where you've got a CFL Grey Cup and a big slate of NFL. It doesn't get better.
Now, we're going to have a good time today. I'm bringing Jay here out of New Jersey, just like myself. Jay, I don't know, man. Early in the week, I'm looking at some of these games going, we're getting some good weather conditions. Walked the pup today in South Jersey, just outside the city of Philadelphia. A little bit of wind, a little bit of rain, cool, raw. You're up there in northern New Jersey. Same thing?
Yeah, I'm about 8 minutes from MetLife Stadium, and it's raw. It's raining a little bit. The wind's whipping around. So it's perfect football weather, though.
No, we're going to have some fun today breaking it all down. As you guys know the drill, we're going to hit each and every game today, a full card, which is really nice, and a lot of games that have some intriguing injuries, intriguing inactives, and also some weather conditions. Boys, let's get after it right now. And before we do that, always check out SBRodds.com. That's exactly what we're going to use today. It's lighting up like a Christmas tree. Let's start in Cleveland, 251, 252, Fitzpatrick and Mayfield. Hey, last time we saw, at least the Cleveland Browns for this part, swinging helmets, getting suspensions, going to be down Myles Garrett in this football game, going to be down Olivier Vernon in this football game, going to be down Okojobi on the defensive line as well, missing a guy in the safety position. And then you flip it over, and I was joking all week long on a lot of shows, gentlemen, who the hell is playing the secondary today for the Miami Dolphins? We'll whip it around pretty quick here. Jay, let's start with you first. Weather conditions, not too bad here, 42, 43 degrees, winds under 15 miles an hour. What's your early look on this game? What can we break down here?
Donnie, I was on Cleveland in that Pittsburgh game, but I think if I'm betting this game today, I have to look at the Dolphins. They're about a 500 club this year against the spread, and I just don't think that the Cleveland Browns are in a position to lay 11 points to anybody, even the Miami Dolphins. Ever since Ryan Fitzpatrick took over at quarterback, he has just about outscored his opponents, at least going into that Buffalo game last week. And I was on Miami last week. They didn't get the job done for me, but they've been good to me this year. So if I'm looking at this game, I can only look at taking the 11. I just can't lay it yet with Cleveland.
Gotcha. And there's no fault in that, because what you see out of the Cleveland Browns, this is one of those football teams, Jay, that if I bet the situation and things go wrong, I'm not talking about just playing bad football. I'm talking 10 penalties, 175 yards and 2 turnovers, and they can't score from the, first and goal at the 1. That's what you get with the Cleveland Browns. But Ian, I want to ask you this question. So we're setting this football game up, and you're saying, all right, Miami on offense, Pro Football Focus, whatever number of publications you look at, bottom 5 offense, bottom 5 defense. When you take a look from a Cleveland perspective, last 5 games, Seattle, New England, Denver, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, outside of the Seattle game, the last 4 games, top 10 defenses, going to seem like a little bit of a breather today. But does that mean that Cleveland can be a backable football program today?
Yeah, I think this is a day where we can trust the Cleveland offense a little bit more. We've laughed, we've ridiculed, we've absolutely had a ton of fun watching this team just absolutely shoot themselves in the foot repeatedly in the red zone with bad execution and horrendous play calling all season inside the 20-yard line. It's been a problem all year for Cleveland, but you mentioned it. It's been one gauntlet of pretty good defensive football teams after another lately that this Cleveland Browns team has played. Miami doesn't have that defense, and you look at them with McCain and Xavier Howard and guys like that out of the lineup from the secondary. It's a team that you should be able to throw the football to the likes of the Landrys and the Beckhams of the world today if you're Baker Mayfield, and have success with that vertical downfield passing game, be able to run the football. Running the football has been something you've been able to do with Chubb most of the season, but I think the downfield passing game can really be a big weapon today for Cleveland. And on the flip side, you talked about it, they were throwing those bows last week, the Cleveland Browns. It took out half their defense in the process with the suspensions. He talked about it with Myles Garrett. And I'm telling you what, more and more the weeks go by, he's the guy that's getting 90% of the pass rush for this Browns team. I'm not seeing a whole lot of guys that have stepped up and gotten pressure on opposing quarterbacks outside of him. You mentioned Ogunjobi, another guy that's going to be out. It's a team that I know they recently got Randall and Greedy Williams, their secondary back. And, Ryan Fitzpatrick is what he is. He is one of those guys that he's going to throw the football. Doesn't matter if it's into coverage. Doesn't matter if he's got double coverage on his top receiver. He's going to throw it there, hope his guy makes a catch, and he's just going to be one of those gunslingers. So, and that sometimes can result for points for his team or the other team. So I didn't get involved in the side. I'm a little worried about Miami just a little bit because they finally got that first win, and then it was like we exhaled, and then they got whipped by Buffalo last week. I don't know if I trust that. I certainly wouldn't lay 10.5 with Cleveland. I think I'd be in the J camp. If I were to bet the side, I'd lean a little to Miami here, but I do have a pretty big bet over the total in this game, 45.5, 46. I think Miami can move the ball, and I think Cleveland's defense a little decimated because of what happened last week. And on the flip side, this is the time where after they've played a lot of good defenses, Cleveland's offense can finally flex their muscles a bit against a really weak Miami defense. So I think we see points.
I agree with you, Ian. I'm going to ask you, Jay, a quick question on this because when you take a look, and I know you're leaning towards the Miami Dolphins, I like their head football coach. They have this team playing when it's clear that they never have the competitive advantage with having the better athletes on their side of the football. But when we take a look at Fitzpatrick, he doesn't have a running game, doesn't have a good offensive line. So down 3 starters on that defensive line for Cleveland could pay dividends. If you're taking a look at points, the one good thing that you like about the Dolphins as of lately, forget about early in the season, at least their game on offense, last 5 games split, 21 versus Buffalo, 14 versus Pittsburgh, 26 versus the Jets, 16 versus the Colts, and 20 versus Buffalo. When we're looking at betting totals, it's nice, even though your team is bad, you're still putting up at least in that high teens numbers there, Jay.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you and Ian nailed it about Baker Mayfield being able to go downfield today off a secondary that's decimated. 2 player props, Donnie, that I would be looking at in this game. Odell Beckham Jr.'s longest reception over 21.5 yards. I like that. And we've cashed this twice so far on Liveline. Since Kareem Hunt has been back, he's been targeted in the receiving game like almost 9 times per game. His reception prop today, 3.5 receptions. You're going to have to lay a little juice, but I would be stunned if he doesn't catch 4 passes today, because they have realized that Nick Chubb is the workhorse, and they're really utilizing Kareem Hunt out of the backfield as a receiver. So I like over 3.5 receptions for Kareem Hunt today.
No, I agree. I think the weapons are there. You have 2 all-pro caliber running backs, 2 big game wide receivers. This is one game where Baker Mayfield, if you have a game that gets right, you figure it would be here. Now, the line throughout the week, Chris opened up offshore here at SBRodds.com like minus 12.5, but that prevailing line was 11. We saw it dip to 10.5s and 10s during the week, but now looks like primarily back up to 11 across the board. I am invested in this football game, so I think we get some points as well. 253, 254. This is a game that I like to look at because I almost think, in a way, it's 2 teams looking in the mirror at each other. Both are going to play some pretty good defense. Both don't have incredible weapons at wideout. You have young quarterbacks that are athletic, that can make plays. You're going to be in Buffalo today. Not all that bad of weather. There's worse weather out there than what you're going to get in Buffalo. But Buffalo drafts quarterbacks based on, do they have a rocket arm, and can they move around the pocket in case there's windy or bad weather conditions, which, again, aren't going to be that bad today. Denver goes on the road last week, and I'm looking at that going, whoa. This is like, the year previous with the Minnesota Vikings game when Buffalo came out of nowhere and stung them. They weren't able to hang on. But the thing I like about a young football, at least a young quarterback that's fighting back, lost control of that football game, but still put his team in position to win with the first and goal late in that football game. Take a look at SBRodds.com. Opened up at 5 during the week. The line is now 3.5 across the board. I agree with that. I'm still leaning towards the Denver. I don't have an official play in this game, but I'm leaning Denver Broncos. You're taking the points. Ian, taking a look from a Buffalo perspective here. Got right last week. Got that offense going. Now coming home, we know they have a pretty good home field advantage. Is that enough to carry more than a 3-point victory at home here for the Buffalo Bills, Ian?
Man, I don't trust Denver here. I understand taking the points with them, but that's a gut-wrencher loss. I mean, as you've had many this season, but that's as bad as it gets last week against the Minnesota Vikings. Came out the way you wanted, and not being able to finish that game is absolutely horrific to lose in that fashion the way they did. I don't know where the psyche is for the Broncos right now. It's a team going nowhere. It's been a bit of a bust season for Vic Fangio in his first year there. Brandon Allen really struggled, even though Denver was leading that game most of the way. It's not like he threw the football great. Although the one guy he's found great chemistry with is Cortland Sutton. I mean, this is a guy I think weekly, you talk about from a props perspective, and certainly Live Line deals with that when they talk about the live show. I mean, you got to be looking at this guy's props on a weekly basis. 5 catches, over 100 receiving yards last week. Seems to be that one guy that Brandon Allen has managed to find downfield in the passing game for this Broncos team. But I just worry about this team. The defense was on the field a lot last week as well against Minnesota. Now you got to go on the road for a second straight week, an environment that's pretty hostile. Buffalo getting off the schneid against Miami last week. And hey, we know what this Bills team is all about. They can't beat the good teams. They can't beat the elite teams on their schedule. They can beat the Denvers. They can beat the Miamis. They can beat Washington. They can beat the 2 sad sack New York teams. I think Buffalo can take care of business. If I'm playing, I'm laying in this game.
It'll be interesting, too, Jay, because when we take a look at weather conditions, which, again, in the Northeast here, we have to pay attention to. Not overly cold, going to be at 40 degrees at kickoff, but I'm showing 18, 17, 16-mile-an-hour winds, which could probably gust up to 25 and 30. We've seen games in Buffalo with those shaky field goal posts and 41-yarders that turn into, come up short by 5 or 6 yards or blow all the way off the screen into the stands. Jay, looking at this game, any idea on what a total could be that you would be looking at or maybe interesting to participate in? Because the over across the board, 37, isn't all that high, but these two teams don't scream firepower to me.
No, Donnie, if I'm being honest, I looked at this game all week long and said, I have absolutely no desire to bet this game or watch this game. The Buffalo Bills are an enigma, man. I cannot believe this team is 7-3 with an offense that's that bad. I just don't respect the passing game at all. Yes, their defense is like a top 15 defense. We know that the Denver Broncos have a top 10 defense. They usually play better at home, but they're still a game defense, even on the road. I agree with Ian on both counts. Cortland Sutton has got us paid a couple times on Live Line. And I guess if you gave me a free bet, I guess I would lay it here. But I have absolutely no desire to bet the game. At 37, do I think there's a better chance that this game goes under than over? Yeah, I do. I do, because both these defenses should be able to stop subpar offenses. So I know 37, me and you talked about it last week. Everything has to go right.
Correct. For
you to not go over 37. But, man, everything can go wrong for these two teams to not go over 37, right?
No, you're right. You're right. Go ahead, Ian.
I think the total's a powder keg in this game because, in theory, it's an under matchup all the way. I don't think these are offenses moving up and down the field, but you can always get with these two defenses that are pretty physical defenses when it's all said and done. They can force turnovers. They can get a fumble or a fumble return touchdown or set up the offense with a very short field. And that's always a scary prospect when you're talking about total of 37.
No, you're exactly correct because again, we've seen Buffalo because we played this card a lot last year in Buffalo Bills games because Buffalo doesn't score. They play good defense. And those 36, 37s, 38s continuously seem to go over the total. I think Buffalo is going to be able to settle in this football game. I do think, if I'm saying, hey, who's just going to win the football game? Of course, I'm going to say the Buffalo Bills. 3-7 road team, 7-3 home team after getting right last week. That's the way I lean in this football game. Not enough for me to make official plays, but again, I do lean on the Denver Broncos in this game. Not really too fond of the total. How about this next game we're going to take a look at? 255, 256, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. On paper, you're saying, what the hell are we doing? Well, we're gamblers here. This is what we do. We go over each and every game, try to find some angles. There's a lot of banged up injuries in this football game. No James Conner going to be in the lineup for the Steelers. Also, Juju Smith-Schuster is down, so it's going to leave a depleted wide receiver core. Pouncey, the center, the quarterback of your offensive line, he will not be playing. Mason Rudolph hasn't shown me a lot, but then you flip it over to Finley on the opposite side. What's he really working with? Still no A.J. Green. All right, you have some decent running backs they can work with, but absolutely no defense. My question here is early in the week on the audible. I did fire on the under 38 in this football game. We're now showing 37s across the board. Look, I know Cincinnati's bad on defense, but I take a look at this game as a whole, and I think Pittsburgh is going to control it from a defensive side going against Cincinnati's offense. On vice versa, I don't know if Pittsburgh's going to stretch the field. I don't know if Pittsburgh's going to push the issue to try to defeat a really porous Cincinnati team and secondary. If we're looking at this game, Jay, overall, against it, we're talking another 37.5,
Friday on Odds Market, Donnie, I gave out the exact same play, under 38. Yep. I mean, I don't think what it has changed since September 30th to make you think that this game is now going to go over the number. The score in the first game was 27-3, and that was with the Red Rocket playing the game, right? Now Finley is in the game, and maybe the Steelers don't score 27 and maybe the Bengals don't score 3, but I still think they find a way. Again, it's scary to go under 38 in the National Football League. I understand that. But what has made you think in the last 8 weeks that anything is going to change from the first time we saw these two teams play? And for me, the answer is nothing. I don't like the side. I can only look at the under if I was betting the game.
Yeah, it's a nasty front seven coming at you from a Pittsburgh perspective. Ian, looking at this football game, now taking from a side here, opens up at 6, 7 at Chris. Now we're settling into 6s and 6.5 across the board. Look, Steelers are a much better football team, but I'm not willing to say that the Steelers are a shoo-in to win this football game by a touchdown or more from what I've seen out of the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially on offense. Is that too many points to lay on the road? So you know what? This Pittsburgh team might dominate here and get a couple defensive scores and set them up with short fields. How are you feeling about this side of this game, Ian?
Well, I'm holding my nose and taking a small piece of Cincinnati. I have to at this number. I absolutely have to in this situation with all the injuries that Pittsburgh's dealing with an offense that it hasn't gotten any better in recent weeks. It really hasn't. You go back to each and every one of the recent games, the Rams game, the Browns game. This is a team that's really winning with their defense right now more than anything. And yeah, they could really make things miserable here for poor Ryan Finley and the Bengals. But the one thing I saw last week, and it was a split bet I had with Oakland, first half and full game against Cincinnati. Cincinnati showed me a lot more fight than I thought they would. Remember, they got absolutely destroyed by Baltimore the week before, and I thought this team's going to just quit on the season. They didn't. The effort was there. They fought their guts out against Oakland. They didn't win. They only lost 17-10, though. They were in that game at the very least. I saw fight from the Cincinnati Bengals. And if you're going to ever consider backing an 0-10 football team in late November, you have to be seeing fight. You have to be seeing effort. And at least last week I saw that from Cincinnati. With this Pittsburgh offense right now and the pieces they're missing after last week's game, fight might be all Cincinnati needs to lose this game by 3, 4, 6 points. So it's a hold your nose, say your prayers kind of bet, but I'm going to take a little bit of Cincinnati here.
Can't blame you. You're right. You do have to hold your nose, and sometimes to make money, you got to lay down with those fleas, and that's probably what you're going to do today. But it is a home team. Pittsburgh would have to win by margin. And let's not forget also this angle, Ian, that you want to take a look at. Last week, who did they play? Oh my God, really emotional Cleveland Browns. Boy, we got this one sandwich game in here before we get back to Cleveland Browns, which the national media is going to descend on that football game next week. Let's roll our helmets out here and pick up a quick victory against the Cincinnati Bengals. Any part of that, Ian, play into this game for you saying, you know what? I know they're professionals. They don't really look ahead, but technically you got a weird game setting up next week with Cleveland, man.
Well, with all the the hate coming out of that game and all the finger pointing and all the bad mouthing going on between the two teams coming out of the ugly incident we saw last week, there's no question there's one eye toward Cleveland again in the rematch next week, and that's a factor. You got to have the maturity and the poise, this team that's banged up, especially on the offensive side of the football, missing key pieces, to go on the road and win by margin, albeit win by margin against an awful team. I'm not going to say anything other than they're awful, Cincinnati, but sometimes you got to bet awful teams and to make money in the NFL. I'm going to try to today with this team.
I hear 257, 258. Those New York Football Giants rested, but are they actually ready? Is Daniel Dimes, who said, you know what? I'm going to sit back and take this week off. I'm going to hold a football like it's in the program where, people are going to try to knock it out of my arms in the grocery store, at Wawa, at 7-Eleven, or the convenience store, wherever they might be. Now, looking at this game overall, it's the same MO that we preach, and sometimes I get away from it. But you know what today? I've completely abstained from this game. Jay, 6-point favorite, Mitchell Trubisky versus anybody. I don't care if this is Alcorn State, Tuskegee, William Patterson, Rowan University. I don't care who it is. I can't lay 6. Can you?
Donnie, come on, bro. You know how much I loathe Mitchell Trubisky. Listen, man, I thought about holding my nose and taking the 6 with the Giants. Then I think to myself, Daniel Jones last week throws for 308 yards and 4 touchdowns and loses to the New York Jets by a touchdown. I mean, you can't ask the kid to play better than that. And it still wasn't enough to beat the New York Jets. The defense is terrible. They're 27th of the Giants in DVOA. I just another game, Donnie, I have absolutely no interest in betting. I would stay away from the side, and I guess it's another game where I would lean under 41. There are so many of these bad games this week. What can you get right now at Pinnacle?
Yeah, we're looking across the board. It opens up at 40 and 41 across the board. You're getting 40 and a half. Chris is 41, and Pinnacle's 40 at minus 116 towards the over.
Yeah, you can get 41 at bookmaker right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would lean under. You can't count on the Chicago Bears to do anything. They scored the 7 points on the Rams last week. Do I think that they'll probably be able to score on the Giants? Yeah, probably more than normal. And I was thinking about it, from a psyche perspective, right? Don't you think that Matt Nagy tries to get some confidence back in Trubisky this week and lets him air it out against a really, really bad defense?
I mean, I thought, Jay, that would be the case. I look at this game, and if you're talking about just being a competent offensive staff with a quarterback that can just but not even make the throws, Jay. I'm talking about make your progressions and throw to a wide open wide receiver, whether or not you connect or not. Against the Philadelphia Eagles, 102 yards in the air. Detroit, which, again, this is when the Eagles, still down in the secondary, 102. Detroit, 145. The Rams, when you're down double digits, 193. If you get, if Trubisky, you throw a party if he throws for 250 yards, which should be your average day for an NFL quarterback, it's so hard to back because if you slide a competent quarterback in for the Chicago Bears, they're a playoff football team. He's that bad.
100%. Yeah, they're definitely a playoff team without this kid. I guess I would probably look to the props market and stay off the side or end total in this game, to be honest. I would probably be looking at Saquon Barkley player props. I don't know if I love David Montgomery. I love them out of Iowa State. And I don't know why the Chicago Bears don't use him as much as they should. They rely on Cohen way too much. And I think they have an absolute stud in Montgomery. But they have the 26th offense. They have the 4th best defense in the league. And I can only lean under.
Ian, a turnover-prone quarterback you're going to go on the road against a pretty formidable defense here. The one problem that we always have is the Chicago Bears. Can they score enough points in this game? I already said my piece on this. It's 6 points. I just say, it would be Giants or nobody. Do you have a path to victory for Chicago, or do you agree with that same sentiment saying, look, man, if it's over a field goal, I'm not touching the Bears?
Yeah, I'm going to be once again going to the old pet adoption agency for this game here. I'm sleeping. I'm adopting another dog with fleas, another dog with rabies. Never mind fleas, rabies for this football game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on the Giants here. +6. I don't mind taking this number. Let's not forget Daniel Jones did play well. And I'll say this. You should say the Giants defense got torched by the Jets last week, and that's certainly the case. But there's no way you can't say that the Jets are aren't a better offense than Chicago right now at this point in time. I actually think Darnold's getting better and better the last few weeks. And we'll get to the Jets in a minute with that game against Oakland. But I think Darnold and that Jets offense is capable at least. They're solid. They've been putting up some points and at least moving the ball since he's gotten back. I can't say that about Chicago. So I know the Giants defense is horrid. It's brutal. I'm not going to paint a picture. They're not anything but that, but they're facing a much weaker offense. The play calling's out of sorts. Mitchell Trubisky's totally inaccurate. Happy feet, throwing off his back foot way too much as well. Mm-hmm. That's been an issue as well for Trubisky here. And the Giants, not good, but they're battling. It's not like they're quitting and lying down in the game. Even going way back to the Monday night game against Dallas, which went against them late, but they battled in that game. It's just they weren't good enough to win it. But I think the Giants here, it's one of those games, and they get Sterling Shepard back. That's going to help at least for Daniel Jones. It's another weapon to throw to down the field. It's something's got to give. Chicago's bad offense, Giants bad defense. In a game like this, where it's you have question marks about both sides of that matchup, you got to just take the points, and that's what I'm going to do. Giants +6. I'm going to dare the Chicago team. Let's not forget, 1-5 straight up, guys. In their last 6 games, they have to win this game by a touchdown, and I'm not sure they can.
All right, Jared, we're going to head down Route 3, little Route 46 action. We're going to take you right to the Meadowlands. And I know, one of our good friends, Gabe, is at the game saying it's cold and raw. Same thing it is here in southern New Jersey. Looking at this football game, I got to tell you, opens up 3.5 towards the Oakland Raiders. And I was a little bit surprised by that. I'm still surprised at a little bit of rainy conditions, early game, Oakland coming east. So I think Oakland is actually the better football team overall. I do think that, but I'm not sure that I'm willing to lay -3 with the Oakland Raiders in this football game with a little weather conditions here. What's your take on this football game up there?
Yeah, I agree completely, Donnie. I think Oakland is the better team, but I think this is a spot where if I'm on a side, I think I have to take the New York Jets. The offense looks like they finally turned a corner the last 2 weeks. and they finally looked like a cohesive unit, really, for the first time all year, I think. So I kind of like the over too, Donnie. I understand that the Raiders are 8th in defensive DVOA and the Jets are 11th in defensive efficiency, but I don't know why I feel that that Sam Darnold's going to score enough points to get up and over this total. I like Josh Jacobs a lot, and the Jets are not great against the run. And if you let that Raiders offense set up and you let Jacobs get yards, that really opens up the passing windows for Derek Carr. And it would not shock me to see this game get over 45.5. I really think, based on the offense I've seen the last 2 weeks by the New York Jets, I think if I'm betting the game, I'm taking the field goal and I'm going with the over.
I tend to agree with you. And by the way, guys, thanks for tuning in. Over 400 here live in the chat box. Thanks for retweeting. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for making it a fun show for both me, Ian, and also Jay. Back to this football game here, Ian. I want to take a look because I think Jay's on the right path here. Early in the week on the Audible with Jimmy, we break down the games. We take a look. 51 degrees, 3-mile-an-hour winds. That was the prediction for Sunday's football game, and that line was sitting at about 46. I said, wait, let me get something straight here. Just look like they're waking up. Oakland doesn't have a very good defense. Oakland, we know, can dial up some offense now when healthy. Good running back, good tight end, good wide receivers that are healthy, good offensive line. And now it's sort of shifted down. So even though I do have it, I believe, in the pick six contest, I sort of soured on it because when I see the weather, I was like, fumble here, missed field goal here. Does that affect you in this football game, and how are you looking to bet this one?
That's the thing. Mother Nature's throwing you a curveball if you're going by what the forecast was for this game early in the weekend. It was looking like it was going to be a pleasant Sunday there at MetLife for this game. But yeah, now we're looking at 20, 30 mile per hour winds, chance of rain for this game. And that's exactly why this total is getting hammered down right now. It's down to 44 starting.
Wow.
Up. And I'm locked in with the over already. I am. And I've got a bad number. The forecast now is sort of gone awry, but this is I still think it can get there. I'm hoping at least it can still get there because I project points. I just talked about how the Jets offense has improved week by week with Sam Darnold. That's exactly why, if you're the Giants defense, maybe you'll be able to handle Chicago better because I think this Jets offense has gotten better in recent weeks. 30-plus points in back-to-back games for this Jets offense. And you look at this Oakland team, guys, from a totals perspective, this is a low total for Oakland. Their totals have been 48, 52, 51.5, 49, 48. And I've been on some of these overs. I was on the over in the Chargers game, the Lions game that got to 55 points. I think I had the Houston game, and that one was a push at 51. But they've been getting into the 50s, in a majority of their games. Last week, obviously, it did because you're playing a woeful Cincinnati offense. But, Oakland's defense is still suspect. You can move the ball against them. The Jets should be able to. And as on the flip side, you look at the Jets lately. They played Washington, bad quarterback play. Giants, okay, decent quarterback play. Miami, suspect quarterback play. Jacksonville with Minshew. I mean, they haven't faced a boatload of great offenses and great quarterbacks lately, the New York Jets. And say what you will about Oakland's defense at times, their offense is good. I like what I've seen from Derek Carr this year. They're putting up points. They're moving the ball. I understand weather is why this total is going down, but I'm locked in with the over, and I'm willing to take my chance, weather be damned.
Ian, team that didn't have a lot of expectations this year. We're talking Oakland Raiders, right? I mean, look, I did the previews all summer going like, Antonio Brown's not here. Good luck, Raiders. What a joke. TV GM. This isn't going to work out at all. And now I'm looking at a team that's on the cusp of actually making a true playoff run. Does that affect you? Maybe say, wait a second, maybe a little over their skis in this one coming west to east, and they should win this, but they haven't really had that pressure. And also keep in mind, I asked you about a couple games earlier, a team that you're looking for next week, they got the Kansas City Chiefs, Ian.
Yep. Yeah, spot-wise, it's not great. I actually did bet Oakland small in this game. I definitely like the over a lot more. But I just think Oakland is the better of these teams. I know it's not the greatest spot in the world for them, but the problem for the Jets is how good are the Jets? I mean, your 2 wins in a row are against Washington and the Giants. That's the thing. Washington and the Giants are the 2 wins that we're all of a sudden saying, oh, look at the Jets. They look good right now. They haven't beaten anybody. Let's see if they can beat Oakland. I still have my doubts.
It should be an interest. And again, I wish it was. It's a shame that these aren't September and October weather conditions because 46 in this football game, I'm just pressing that bet button. I'm going to sit back and watch it and think both of these guys can air it out. We'll see what happens. I still do think, because now you're getting a little bit more value of the 46ers, the 47s, now down to 44.5. we could see turnovers go in the right direction. You're on your own 10. You drop the snap, and there you go. It's a first and goal for the other team. So we'll see what takes place. 261, 262 down in the Dome. Carolina did the bubble burst on their quarterback, and they're going to kick Cam Newton out of town. This is the guy you want in Kyle Allen to lead you in the future. Now there's some question marks coming up, and you saw a get-right game last week for the New Orleans Saints as they headed to Tampa Bay and really took care of business. Now coming back in the Dome, laying double digits in the division again. Boy, I think we saw this a couple weeks ago versus those Atlanta Falcons. Didn't work out too well, but one would think that New Orleans has righted the ship here. I leaned earlier in the week in this football game and also on the shows to take an under 48. Now we're seeing 46s, 46.5s here. We don't have any weather conditions. Jay, looking at this game, too many points to lay with the New Orleans Saints as double-digit favorites or no?
No, I don't think so, Donnie. I think Kyle Allen starts 4-0. The bloom is now off the rose. The kid's 1-3 in his last 4 games. He throws 4 interceptions last week. Did they have a chance against the Packers, even though he threw 4 interceptions? Yeah, I guess they did. But they've just been way too inconsistent over the last 5 weeks. And for all the trials and tribulations that this New Orleans Saints team has gone through this year, Kamara injury, they lose Breeze. Here they sit, 8-2. Everybody's healthy. Again, ready for a serious playoff push. I'm throwing that game against Atlanta out. It looked like that Saints offense finally woke up last week. And this is the first bet that I've actually made on the card from the games that we've been talking about. I took the Saints team total over 13.5 in the first half. I think they get out fast. I don't think it's too much to ask them to put up 2 touchdowns before the break. And I also took the Saints minus 9.5. Now it's 10. But I just think that they are at least one level above this Panthers team. So I think that they continue to roll and build momentum going into the playoffs.
Ian, playing off that, Cal Allen, I like the game manager. You say what you want, game manager. It's about wins and losses in the NFL when you're a backup quarterback. Doesn't matter how sexy the win is, as long as you're winning and moving forward. And it starts, hey, maybe this could be the quarterback. Ian, he was horrendous last week versus the Atlanta Falcons. It's tough sometimes for a young quarterback to get that out of his head because let's be real. If you're really bad last week at home where the crowd's on your side and you can calm them down and they get real quiet, you go down into one of the loudest places on earth and maybe you're a little bit shook from your game you had last week. Is that play into your cap? Or are you just going to say, you know what, Carolina getting 10? Give me that all day in the division.
You know what? The value's on Carolina clearly. But here's the thing with this, and this I could kind of see this coming a little bit with Carolina because you look at even during the 4-0 streak that they had, they were getting outgained significantly in a lot of those games. Really a lot of fluke plays, special teams plays, some fumbles and some turnovers that they took advantage of for a lot of those wins. Really wasn't a product, that win streak of Carolina, of them just moving the football up and down the field and Kyle Allen chucking the football up all around the field like he's Joe Montana. That wasn't the way Carolina was winning those games during that win streak. They were a little fortuitous, a little bit fluky. And now we're starting to see signs of that these last 2 weeks with Carolina. And I think maybe last week was a product of, they got stuffed on the goal line trying to come back against Green Bay a couple weeks ago, and they were flat as a pancake after that tough loss against the Packers. But still, that doesn't explain how brutal they were offensively against a very suspect Atlanta defense, which suddenly's played a lot better, actually, the last couple of weeks. But, Kyle Allen, simple. Can Christian McCaffrey run the football? If he can, it makes Kyle Allen a better quarterback. It makes Carolina a better offense and a better football team. Well, McCaffrey got shut down a little bit by Atlanta last week. I don't think he's going to run here against New Orleans. You look at the Saints' run D this year, really good numbers, 85 rush yards per game. That's all they are allowing on the ground, this New Orleans defense. So it could be tough sledding again for McCaffrey. And if McCaffrey can't run, Carolina's not winning, and Carolina may not cover. So I think the betting markets have crashed on Carolina. I understand it's probably buy low point spread value-wise on them right now. But, I'm not going to ask them to stay within 10 against New Orleans. It's a pass.
It's a tough call because you're right. What we saw last week, very good for New Orleans, very bad for Carolina, and it comes down. You don't have Cam Newton anymore in the Dome, and typically we usually look at these games between Carolina and New Orleans down the Dome as shootouts, 41-38, 45-41. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case, and it's interesting to see a total in the mid-40s down in the Dome, so a lot of stuff that's going to be taking place. Before we skip over this game, Jay, when we're betting, because I know you have the live line coming up just after the show, 1 o'clock, guys, tune in, and also the games later on with the prime time as well. betting these live, because I remember a couple weeks ago, I talked to you about one of these type of situations like, hey, it's 10. Is this one of those games that you maybe sit back and wait and say, boy, I hope Carolina gets the football and they can drive down and score at least a field goal, and maybe I'll get this under double digits? Is this something that you would pursue, or say, you know what, I'm comfortable, man. Give me the -10. Let's roll.
I think Jay's lost him for a sec.
Yep. Is he still in the? Let me check if he's still up there or not, or he's got to dip back in. All good. Now he'll be back here in a second. No big deal. We'll keep it moving then, Ian. 263, 264, Tampa Bay and Atlanta. I joked around this week on Friday with Jimmy, me, and the Whale did the Audible, Ian, and I said to myself, this is one of those teams where, use the analogy like the old Scooby-Doo, series where at the end they pull the mask off. I can't even believe it was you. What are we really seeing from a coaching perspective? You can't be serious. A team, I've never seen a team dead, roll over, fired football coach, everybody quit, to in the blink of an eye be like a top 3 defense in the NFL. There's no way this continues this week, does it? It can't.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I don't know what to do with this game. I do have a small bet over the total because I don't buy Atlanta's defense just yet. In Tampa Bay, the one thing they're going to do is they're going to throw the football, and Winston's a lot like Fitzpatrick. He's going to make plays for probably both teams in this football game, and that usually is good still for overbetters because it means points for somebody. Courtesy of the arm of Jameis Winston, even if it is for the other team. So I think we'll see. I don't buy Atlanta's defense just yet. I know Carolina's offense has regressed. The week before, New Orleans was flat. Let's be honest. New Orleans was flat. Feeling good, rolling going into the bye week, flat coming out of the bye week, and they had a stinker. They had a clunker against Atlanta, and the Falcons took advantage of that. Then their defense faced a regressing Carolina offense last week. I think Tampa can move the ball, but Matty Ryan and that offense can still move the football, especially against the Tampa Bay defense that isn't shutting anybody down these days. So inside, I played this game over the total. I'm scared to death to go against Atlanta because every time I've gone against Atlanta, I think back to that, or went on Atlanta too. I've been wrong. I remember taking Atlanta against Tennessee, and Tennessee rolled in Atlanta when I thought, hey, Atlanta, get right. That was in the middle of their spiral downward. Now all of a sudden they look like, wait, maybe Dan Quinn's going to stay around after the season now with what they've put together the last 2 games. So Atlanta games from a side perspective, I want nothing to do with them because my read has not been clear in these games, but I do like this game over the total a little bit.
Hey, Jay, looking at this football game, right? We see the Atlanta Falcons. You don't know what we get after the break. I figure they quit. They show up getting 14 points and win outright in the Dome. They're getting, dog number 6, 5.5, crashes down to like 3 points last week, and they were the right side again. Now they are laying points. To me, sooner or later, they got to revert back to just being the Atlanta Falcons again. Is that something we can trust, or is just saying, hey, hold on, Donnie? Jameis Winston is in play here. We never know. I'll lean on Atlanta in the Dome today. What are you thinking here?
My favorite betting angle of the week, Donnie, is in this game. First of all right, let's approach it from the side. I think if I'm betting this game, I'm taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers money line at like plus 160. Why can't this Buccaneers team beat the Atlanta Falcons? We have no idea if the last 2 weeks are just an anomaly,
mirage,
or if this is the team that they were supposed to be all year long. I don't trust everybody in the league up until 2 weeks ago got right against this Falcons defense. Okay. Now, my favorite angle in the game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team total over 23.5. It's actually my favorite angle of the day. Since September 22nd, the Bucs have put up 31, 55, 24, 26, 34, 23, and 27. I don't know why this team total is 23.5 against the Atlanta Falcons, man. And furthermore, I don't understand why this total opened at 54.5 and didn't stay there. I saw it as low as 51. If we've seen anything from the Atlanta Falcons, even the years that they've been bad, Matt Ryan is still capable of putting points up at home, right? So my gut tells me that this game goes over the total, but I feel really good about the Bucs going over 23.5 here. Jameis Winston and this offense has not been the problem for this Tampa Bay team. It's been the fact that they can't stop anybody. I am on this huge, Donnie. Huge.
There we go, man. Look,
huge. There you go. Yeah.
4s, 3s, now 3.5s, and I'm on the same wavelength. You got to show me a little bit more, Atlanta, before you're now a favorite and expected to win by 4+ or more in order to cash that.
By the way,
go ahead.
Jay was on that boxing match, huge last night, and that worked out well. So
it's true.
He's rolling.
Huge, baby. Yeah, no, hey, it's another one of those AFC South battles where maybe in the past we would look at that 54.5 sticking, but I guess people are saying, hey, look at it. Hey, Atlanta, man, Raheem Morris is the defensive secondary coach. They're now the second coming of the 1985 Bears. So we'll see what happens in that football game. Detroit and Washington, yes, we have to talk about this game. Driscoll goes on the road. Haskins last week was an abomination. This team's quitting. Is Josh Norman in? Is he out? Does it even matter if Josh Gordon even suits up in this football game? Well, he is suiting up in this football game, and no, I don't think it matters. At least you have one competent football team, a coaching staff that hopefully will be there for a few years in Detroit, a quarterback that, yes, he is young, but showed the ability to make some plays, and he's got a little bit of seasoning to him. I don't know. Last week, I was such an idiot for trusting the Washington Redskins coming out of the bye. This is the 1 week that Haskins should be able to look good. They're playing a bad football team. They were atrocious, and they quit. Jay, I'll start with you first. Can we back the Washington Redskins getting more than a field goal at home or even 4s across the board right now? Or is it just a lost cause and fire them into the sun, as I said last Sunday, as I bet the Washington Redskins?
My advice to anybody that's going to watch or bet this game, put your money away and go take your wife out for lunch, bro. All right? Like anything. But, I mean, come on, bro. Another game. There are so many games this week that I don't want to be a part of anything that has to do with this game. Donnie, did you see the video of Dwayne Haskins on the sideline?
Hold on, ready? Hold on. If you guys didn't see it, I'm going to put it up on my screen right now. Ready? Not really, but I am going to do this. What I got to do? What I got to do to help you guys out? And the Redskins offensive line are like, bro, just be quiet, man. We're getting killed in this game. What I got to do? So, yes, go ahead. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, he's telling his offensive line, you tell me what I have to do in order to not get sacked. I mean, they're in complete disarray. Another game where I think I guess I would lean towards the under 40. Or maybe, Driscoll hasn't been god-awful. He's been better than I thought. Maybe I would take the 4, but, I mean, for me, you just passed. There's 8 or 9 other games I would much rather take part in than this one.
You're absolutely right. Ian, looking at this football game, because this is the one game that actually held true. Close to 50. Wind's not out of control. No precipitation in this game. It's 40. The Redskins are an abomination on defense. Detroit isn't much better, but I look on one side of the football with the Redskins. I say to myself, the simple throw, like we talk about Mitchell Trubisky, can they make it? Can they get in the red zone and convert, from the 19-yard line into a touchdown? I'm not so sure, but this 40 stares me in the face with 2 bad football teams and say they should at least approach 20 points apiece. Am I crazy, or what side are we looking at here for you?
It's really tricky because like Dwayne Haskins hasn't just been bad. He has been absolutely brutal. He doesn't look like he's ready to start and helm an NFL offense at this point of his career. It's really tricky to trust him. And I know that I'm known for my elongated, detailed breakdowns, but I'm going to keep this very, very simple because I have nothing in this game and I have no part of it whatsoever. I cannot lay more than a field goal on the road with a Jeff Driscoll-led Detroit Lions team, even though I appreciate his mobility and I think that's going to lead him to make a few plays at times in this game. I can't still lay more than a field goal with him in this Lions defense on the road, but there is no way I'm betting Dwayne Haskins-led Redskins team at any number. Easy pass.
Yeah, it's 4s across the board now. We saw for most of the week 2s, 2.5, so it's slowly gaining steam from a Detroit perspective, and then that over-under comes into play. It's hard, when you have young quarterbacks, they're so on, and both of these guys are young quarterbacks, but I would say weapons are a little bit better from Detroit's perspective, especially at wide receiver where guys can make some plays. We'll see if McLaren can get deep, because one play last week, 77 or 75-yard play to McLaren that got called back, might have sort of, got a little bit more mojo for Washington side, but certainly didn't help in this one. Weather conditions, as we said, okay in this football game. So
one last thing on this game, Donnie. Washington Redskins, get your damn head coaching search going. Time to put another dinosaur in Bill Callahan on the sidelines there. Put him out to pasture. He's brutal. He's thinking 1980s NFL football still exists in 2019. Get the head coaching search going.
No, you're entirely right. And last week, sometimes you want to read like coach speak and read between the lines. Last Sunday in the fourth quarter, guys were not being benched because they were ineffective, which they weren't very good. They were being benched because they wanted to take a look at depth. If you're betting football teams to win with your hard-earned money, and the coach might be taking a look at some guys for next season, that's really a recipe for disaster. So we'll see what happens down at Washington. How about this one? Supposed to be a night game. Moved it out. Supposed to be a 4 o'clock game. Moved it out. We're now a 1 o'clock game. Because Donnie would have been at this football game if it wasn't a 1 o'clock football game. But I got to be here for the people in the chat box and let this thing ride out. So I'm here with you guys today. And look, and you know what? I'm actually glad I'm here with you guys, because if I'm going down there, I might as well take out a book and start to read, because I don't know what I'm getting from the Eagles offense today. There's nobody at wide receiver. There's rookie running backs that are banged up. There's guys named Boston playing 30 to 40 snaps in an offensive backfield. Wentz can't throw it to himself. Jadeveon Clowney's out for Seattle. A lot of things moving, including the line that opens the Eagles -3, and now we're seeing Seattle -2 around game time. Jay, I'm going to start with you first here. The over-under opens up at 48. There's some windy weather conditions down at Lincoln Financial Field. We're now down to around 45 at that level, and I still agree with it. If you're the Eagles, the pathway to victory is what? 9-minute drives and hold the football? This is wild. Betting the Philadelphia Eagles in this spot, even though it's ultra contrarian, I don't know if I could do it, Jay.
I'll tell you, Donnie, the Seattle Seahawks have been a really tricky team to get involved with, because, yes, they are an 8-2 football team, but their average margin of victory is well under a touchdown. And so, every game that they play in is close. They should have lost that game against the 49ers. The backup kicker kicked it into the tunnel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but I was thinking maybe I can't take the Eagles, because you're right. Carson Wentz can't throw it to himself.
Yeah.
They have no weapons. I don't expect a lot out of this Eagles offense when they don't have any playmakers at all. On the flip side, I guess if I was going to bet this game, I would probably be looking at a Seattle Seahawks team total over. I think that that secondary for Philly is a joke. That's probably the way I would look. I'm not going to lay it. First of all, you can't bet Seattle now because you missed the best of the number, right? But even aside from that and moving forward, this team is an 8-2 football team that their average margin of victory, man, you look, they're beating teams by 2 and 3 points a game. So I would look maybe towards Seattle team total over or pass. You can't trust at 45.5. The problem is how many points is Seattle going to score? The Eagles going to score today when they don't have any weapons to move the football.
No, you're right, because the one problem that I do usually have with Seattle is you need another team to push them. They would be really happy to engage you in a 13-10 game, or they'll engage you, Russell Wilson, in a 30-29 game. Ian, I'm going to ask you, this is the healthiest the Eagles have been on defense. Nigel Bradham's going to be back for this football game. After the bye week, I had the Eagles as a bye-on football team, but never thought the bye week would damage their offense so severely that they're going to lose one of the best right tackles in football. He's not playing. Your 3 starting wide receivers from opening day will not participate, and your best running back, who is also going to be out for this football game. That's why that line is dropping. Is there any value in taking the Eagles, or does this play out exactly the same way as we saw last week, where, hey, the Eagles got out to a 10-0 lead, and then we said, oh my God, they don't have anybody to do anything against anybody, and they don't score the rest of the game, Yeah,
I know I'm on the public side and the popular side. I know I grabbed Seattle plus 1.5 earlier, and now they're the favorite, which tells you how dire the Philadelphia injury situation is offensively. It's ridiculous. It's insane. It's not. It's almost like what has Lord Gambler done to us to deserve this right now? Look at this. Are you ever going to see Deshaun Jackson again in an Eagle uniform? That guy's been out forever. Nelson Aguilar out. Alshon Jeffrey out. Jordan Howard out. Elaine Johnson, key offensive lineman, out. Where do you go offensively in this game if you're the Philadelphia Eagles? And you saw it last week against New England. That looked sad. That looked absolutely brutal at times, trying to move that football in that game, albeit against a decent New England defense, but still. There's not much going on. Carson Wentz is under pressure. He's not got a lot to work with in terms of weaponry, and you're seeing it take its toll. And, if this game's close, and it still could be, you mentioned Philadelphia's defense is battling. They had Tom Brady confounded at times last week, and they're going to have to find that way, but unfortunately now they got to do it against a Seattle quarterback and Russell Wilson, who's a little bit more mobile, can escape that kind of pressure that Philadelphia likes to bring. And if this game's close, and I still think it'll be close, I don't think Philadelphia is getting blown out here at home. But if this game's close, a one-score game late, who's going to make the plays to win the game offensively? Russell Wilson with his array of weapons with Lockett and Metcalf and a good ground game in Carson, or Philadelphia with Wentz and who exactly? So I think Seattle wins. I think it's close, but Seattle pulls it out.
Jay, if we're taking a look, forget about the side perspective here and what you want to know, because obviously it's another one of those games you're going to take a look at on the show saying, you know what value can we get out of this football game? Is this something you want to watch right away and say the Eagles really can't move the football, or boy, those wins are really adding up and I don't see, a lot of chunk plays in this football game? Is this something you could take advantage of and something that you could wait on and say, you know what? The Eagles are actually moving the football on the ground. No Jadeveon Clowney. Wentz has a lot of time. Even how bad these wide receivers are, even they can get open with all this time.
Yeah, I agree with that, Donnie. If you're watching the game early, if Carson Wentz can't move the football because there's just nobody on the team to help him out, and if Russell Wilson is carving up that weak secondary, I would probably be looking to hop immediately on the Seattle Seahawks team total over, and maybe the under in some player props in Philadelphia. I'm not sure what Carson Wentz's passing yard prop is, but if he doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to, it's going to be really hard for him to get over whatever total that they're posting.
Yeah, it's an odd game because this should be a better spot for the Eagles, but I guess the NFL, maybe the NFL knows a lot more than we do, being proactive, saying, you know what, they ain't going to put this game on Sunday Night Football because we already know all these knuckleheads are going to be out for the Philadelphia Eagles. Rainy, windy, some rain during the game. We'll see what takes place the rest of it, but I'll certainly have my eye on it. 2 4 o'clock games before we get out of here in just a couple minutes. We're also going to go over best bets here on the closing line. Jacksonville and Tennessee. Wasn't happy with what I saw from Jacksonville last week. A very stodgy offense. Nick Foles coming back a little bit rusty. Throws for close to 300 yards, but they got pegged. I mean, they got pegged by a team with not a lot of offensive weapons, because keep in mind in that game, Marlon Mack played about a half, ran for over 100 yards, and then dipped out in the second half, and Indianapolis was still able to move the football and score into the 30s. This isn't the Jacksonville defense that we're usually seeing over the past couple of years. And also, how about the Tennessee resurgence on offense? Huge win over Kansas City, going to the bye, now have aspirations of possibly making a playoff run. Ian, I'm going to start with you first in this game. Tennessee now catching some steam, opened up at 3, was hanging around 3.5 most of the week. Pinnacle flashes a -4.5, -101, 4s across the board. Are we believing in this Tennessee team, rested and ready, and at home today, 4 o'clock?
Usually I make a golden rule. I will not lay points with the Tennessee Titans. The underdogs cash so many times in their games. I'm going to make an exception today. I like Tennessee here in this spot. Off the bye week, rested. I think they get Jarrell Casey, too, a key guy on the defense back.
Yep, he is.
In this game. Absolutely. That's big for the Titans, no question. And look, there's red flags galore after what I saw from the Jaguars last week. I'm mad as hell I didn't bet Indy. I've been high on Indy all season long. I've been singing their praises. I love Frank Reich as a coach. And I said, I just don't love the spot for them with Jacksonville, Foles back, ready to go. That they were no-shows almost for a divisional game trying to save whatever's left of this season. That's a bad sign for the Jaguars. I think they've tuned Doug Marrone out a little bit, this team. The defense is a shell of what it used to be. There's no question about that. And let's say what you will about Tannehill. He's given this team a little boost offensively. They can throw the football a little bit downfield, which wasn't the case with Mariota. I think they've won 3 or 4 with Tannehill under center. They're a more balanced offense. They can throw it a bit, rely on Derrick Henry running the football. I think they'll do damage offensively against Jacksonville here. I'd lay 3.5 with Tennessee. I did lay 3.5 with Tennessee. And this is one of those low totals. I think it can get up there over that total of 41.5. I think it can get there. Tennessee's offense is more explosive. I cashed a ticket on this show last week or 2 weeks ago, Tennessee, Kansas City over the total. I think Tennessee's more of an over team because now they got a passing game that can actually do something. And on the flip side, Foles can't be worse than he was last week against Indy. I think he'll be a little bit better against Tennessee. So I think Tennessee wins and covers. And I think we'll get enough points to get over a low total of 41.5. I'm
going to segue this in a little bit here, Jay. I'm going to come to you with this Jacksonville-Tennessee game. Last 3 games with Marcus Mariota out of the lineup and insert Tannehill, 23 points at home, 27 points at home, 35 points at home. Jay, can we look at a total in this football game that we might be able to get over? You say, you know what? I'm going to lean on Tennessee. Like the way they're playing football. Healthy now, Jayon Brown back at linebacker. Jarrell Casey, as Ian pointed out, he's back as well in this game, and also getting a little bit of help at wide receiver with Corey Davis. They're just about full go outside of Delaney Walker. Is that something you trust in this game? Or saying, you know what? Step back. Jacksonville should be able to hang around, close divisional game.
Yeah, I know we're up against it, so I'll be short.
Mhm.
This was I haven't bet the Tennessee Titans in 11 weeks so far this year. This was the first week though that I considered laying it with this team. They've won 3 out of their last 4 games, and I think Ian nailed it, man. That was a really disappointing effort in a division game for Jacksonville last week. I thought they were live in that game pre-game. I thought they were going to get it done, but they couldn't. I like the over. I think if Nick Foles wakes up and shakes the rust off, this is getting up and over the total. Both these defenses are outside the top 17. So I think as long as the Jags can contribute to the scoreboard, I think this has a chance to fly over.
Yeah, I did. I lean that way all week long. As you see, I put a couple of my best bets up there for the show, which we'll go over you two guys' plays in just here in a few seconds. Dallas and New England, some weather conditions that we have to worry about, but also more importantly, some injury conditions they have to worry about. Tom Brady shows up on Friday with an elbow injury, goes to question. Well, he's going to play in this football game. Doesn't look like Mohamed Sanu's probably going to go. Philip Dorsett, he's also down in this football game. So the points may be a little bit harder to come by for the New England Patriots when you thought it could have been a little bit easier going against this Dallas defense. And one thing that we do know, Dallas is going to bring it on offense, whether it's a little bit rainy, if it's a little bit overcast, this football team should be able to put up points in this game. This line has been dropping 6.5 all week, now down to 5.5. Over-unders at 45.5. Now we're seeing them as low as FanDuel, New Jersey, 43.5. Ian, I'll start with you first. Be quick in this game. Dallas and New England.
Yeah, these are two teams I'd rather bet against than bet on right now. Of course, whenever New England's just one of those teams. I still think they are massively overvalued. They didn't beat anybody early in the season. When they finally played someone really, really good, they got crushed by Baltimore. I know they beat Philly last week, but Philly's a banged up mash unit, as we've just talked about on offense. But again, we're talking about -5 here at home with New England. That's not a price range I'm comfortable at all betting against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in. And I still have my questions about Dallas going in here and being competitive and winning here in Foxborough. So it's a great game to watch, but I'm passing on it.
Jay, if the Eagles lose and the Cowboys win, that's going to put them in the driver's seat for a playoff run, which could happen today. Do we see Dallas going up and A, being competitive, and B, with a legit shot to beat a Patriots team? Don't lose that much in Foxborough.
Well, that's the issue. On the surface, do you want to give the number 1 offense in football 6 points?
Nope.
No, right? But then you look at the coaching matchup, how good New England is at home against the spread, and it's Belichick against Jason Garrett. I mean, that is a joke. But my favorite play, my second favorite play of the day, is the Dallas Cowboys team total over 19.5. I don't know how this total could be 19.5 when they are the best offense in the National Football League. I don't get it. I understand. The only thing I could think of is the weather. That's the only reason why I think that this total dropped. I think at 43, man, I would be shocked if it doesn't go over the total, but I know the winds are supposed to be pretty bad. Here's what we know. The New England Patriots got dick stomped against the running game of the Baltimore Ravens. Now they're going to play the best offensive line of football, a top 3 running back, and Dak Prescott moves the ball through the air on anybody. It doesn't matter who they're playing. Give me over 19.5 team total for the
I'll counterpoint one thing about the running game. Zeke Elliott's not been good in recent weeks. He's fumbling. He's being stopped at the line of scrimmage. Dak Prescott's arm is actually what's moving the football lately for this Dallas offense. It's actually been the passing game. Zeke Elliott's not been looking good lately. So we'll see if he can get back on track. But it looks like a guy that's not quite the same guy now after getting paid. Let's be honest, especially the last couple of weeks.
No, you're exactly right. And also never forget the New England Patriots. There was a guy on the, I believe, the roof of the training facility that they thought might have been a spy from New England. There's a mysterious flu going around for the Dallas Cowboys. Never put that away. And also,
we know who engineered that.
Yep. Keep in mind today in the fourth quarter, over-under, I'm going to put -200. The headsets for the Dallas Cowboys go out in a close football game in the fourth quarter, so they can't make the appropriate play calls. But we wrapped it up here on the week. Time to get the best bets. I'm going to start with you, Ian. Go ahead and give the people what you got today.
Yeah, Miami-Cleveland over 45.5. Let's take the New York Giants +6. I just think Chicago can't be laying that kind of price. I'm going to stay off Oakland Jets as a best bet because of the win there. And let's go late with Jacksonville, Tennessee. Over 41.5 is still out there in some spots, or 42 actually. We'll make it 42. That's the consensus. Jacksonville, Tennessee over 42, Miami, Cleveland over 45.5, and Giants +6.
And please write that in the chat box for them. Ian, Jay, yourself, give me a couple best bets here that we can lean on.
Give me Tampa Bay team total over 23 and a hook. And I agree with Ian on that Jacksonville over 41 and a half. And I'll throw out the Dallas team total over 19 and a half.
There you go, boys. 1 hour action pack setting you up. Kickoff just a few moments away. Thanks for joining us here on Sports Book Reviews, the closing line. Please tune into the live line coming up next with Jay and the boys. As always, we thank you for tuning in. For Ian, for Jay, for Donnie, myself, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next Sunday. Good luck on those wagers out there, boys.
See you, everybody. Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
And next Sunday, Jay, I'll be